I mean, Facebook is going well now. I really want to kind of focus on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube because TikTok is so iffy. On
Right.
the algorithm's really iffy and it changes like every 3 weeks or something. Um, the stabilization of the actual business itself is really iffy because the bans have been since like
Flying.
2020, they've been
Right.
talking about banning it. Welcome to Unplugged, the tech podcast for digital entrepreneurs. I am one of your hosts, Brooke, the founder of the Sober Biz Collective.
Hey, podcasters. I'm Nate Kelly, best-selling author and founder of Pod Studio. If you're looking for tips, tools, and tech on how to utilize podcasting for your business, you're in the right spot. Let's get unplugged.
I got down a rabbit hole once. There's this kind of, it's not really new, but a newish trend of creating an Insta site. So basically creating your Instagram to mimic your website where you have like a banner at the bottom where the 3 pictures line up. It looks really aesthetically pleasing and I love it. And then
Wow.
you have different photos that represent like about me, and then you write your about me section under a photo under in a caption, and then my services and da, 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 da. So you have like 12 tiles set up
Yeah.
that just never change, that look like your website on Instagram, and then basically you just create reels to build your community and you don't have to add your reels to your grid, right? So they just sit in the background
I'm doing it
to
today.
to
I
build
am
your community.
doing that today. So you pin
And then
12
usually you use
things
your
and then you're just
you
creating
don't pin
reels.
them.
Okay.
Yeah, you just create 12 posts, so you have to do it backwards. You'd
Yes.
have to plan out your grid and everything and make sure you do it backwards so that it lines up properly.
Yeah.
And then usually you would pin 3 things at the top that would be like your offers, and then the rest of the grid would look like very cohesive all together, like you have an Instagram website basically there. And then yeah, to build your audience, you just create reels, and then you don't have to have your reels show up on your grid, so they just sit in the background in your reels folder. And that actually has been very effective for reaching new audiences, is not having your reels on your grid. Like you'll have more new engagement from people who haven't seen you before if you're not adding them to your grid.
I love that. It makes so much
So
sense.
says the experts. Yeah.
So says the Instagram experts. That's so funny. Remember when you helped me with my grid for the sobriety diaries back in the day? I mean, like
Yeah.
4 years ago. I was like, how do people get that big picture on the different posts? Like, I didn't even know what it was called back then.
Yeah.
This is genius, though. I love this.
Yeah, and it's just a relief, I find, because I mean, diversifying your content, having a lot of different like photos and carousels and all that kind of stuff is really good. But if you're a digital entrepreneur, it's exhausting to try and keep up with
It
all of that.
really
And I
is.
would utilize carousels for sure on your grid when you're setting up your Insta site. Like talk about your knowledge, do those things, but just you only have to worry about 12 posts. That's it.
Yep.
And then just creating reels to update people of where you're at, adding new information, having one of your podcast episodes, like a clip from it or something. It's just a really simple way to manage your social media that will let people literally use it as a digital business card.
Genius. What's your activity level on LinkedIn? Because I think depending on what services you provide as a digital entrepreneur, that could be more of kind of the demographic that you're looking for. In talking with experts and looking for, social media guidance, it seems
Mhm.
that there's like a meta, so like Facebook, Instagram, and then LinkedIn to kind of divide up the demographic, at least for the services that I'm providing.
Mhm.
Are you a LinkedIner?
I've dabbled.
I've
Um,
dabbled in college. I dabbled in college.
I keep it updated every once in a while when I get a new job and stuff. I'll like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll throw it up there, but haven't no, I haven't gotten super into it. If I was really trying to grow my business, I would probably focus more on LinkedIn because I work business to business. So my services would really support people that are running their own businesses or treatment centers or nonprofits. And I would find a lot of those people on LinkedIn. So if I was in the market for more clients, then I definitely think I would be utilizing LinkedIn a ton more.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm kinda stacked.
She's stacked,
And
ladies and gentlemen.
I'm stacked, and I enjoy making content for social media and, like, video content and stuff. Um, I'm in, like, an experimental stage where I'm really wanting to try new things creation-wise. I'm looking more into YouTube and ways to monetize my content without needing people to buy stuff from me.
Mm.
Um, because that's what I love doing. But my business is web design. So if I want to focus on my web design stuff, I should be in LinkedIn for sure, because that's where I will find my clients.
Yeah, monetizing. I think it's kind of like, you know, the dream of creators to be able to generate revenue, enough revenue for it to matter, you know, not like $7 over the course of 12 months, but to be able to generate from your content. And it sounds like
Yeah.
Facebook's where it's at.
I mean, Facebook is going well now. I really want to kind of focus on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube because TikTok is so iffy on
Right.
the algorithm's really iffy and it changes like every 3 weeks or something. Um, the stabilization of the actual business itself is really iffy because the bans have been since like
Flying.
2020, they've been
Right.
talking about banning it. So, I don't wanna focus all of my energy there just to grow a following. What I found too on TikTok is I grow a following, but none of my following is actually seeing my content. So,
So frustrating.
yeah, so it's a fun place to be. I like a lot of the community on there. So I enjoy making content, so I'll stay on there at some capacity, but that's not where my focus is gonna go.
YouTube's so hard, man. It's just like this
It's so hard.
daunting, like mega, I don't know. It just seems like, in my opinion, for sure, the hardest platform to crack.
Yeah, 100%. So what I'm looking into is like how to funnel people into YouTube from Facebook, right? Because I feel like I'm growing really quickly on Facebook and I- I've seen some creators like have these really intense like teaser videos and then it's like go watch my YouTube for the
Yeah.
full
Like a
video.
trailer, like a theatrical,
Yeah.
like cinematic. Yeah, trailer. I love it.
Yeah, building a community on YouTube itself is probably a long game. I think you build the community and then funnel them to your YouTube and like just it's a balancing act really
For
like
sure. For
because
sure.
I think the most important thing with YouTube is consistency and that's where I've lacked everything. Like I just go hard for 3 weeks and then I die for a week and then
Yeah.
I.
Same.
And so, creating a schedule where I'm, like, batch recording, I think is gonna be the only way that I can actually stay consistent there. I'm working on it.
We're going to get there. We're going to get
Yeah.
there.
How's Sobriety Diaries done on YouTube? Because you have a pretty big, listener pool for that show, and you've had some incredible guests on that do have a
Yeah.
larger following. Do you find that's
I mean,
affected your
yeah,
channel?
the channel is like, and I don't know if I like nurture it enough. You know, we get a couple new followers each episode, but it's still like maybe around 100 views, less than
Mm,
per episode, and there doesn't really seem to be much increase or growth, you know, with the channel. I think that I've come to realize that a lot of virtual podcasts or like remote podcasts, it's harder to garner that sort of viral aspect of things. Whereas,
mm,
you know, in person interviews, you're in like a cool studio. There's that like back and forth. I think that comes a little more natural. There's like a different vibe to it. You know, I
mhm.
haven't seen many unless it's like a famous person, you know, that's that's starting a podcast and that's already famous and doing remote interviews. But I
Yeah.
think that definitely factors into um, the virality of it, or the ability to um, create larger communities. In my opinion, in my experience,
Yeah, I find YouTube's one of those things that it feels like it takes forever, and then once it goes, it goes really quickly. At least that's what I've heard and experienced from friends of mine that have had a lot of YouTube success. Um, it's definitely an art form. It's a job.
right?
It's not a hobby. If you wanna make money off of it, it is a job. Like, you
Right.
will need to put time into it, keyword research, all that kind of stuff. And, the cool thing about YouTube is it is SEO optimized. So they're part of the Google platform or suite, I guess. And what you write in your titles and stuff matters so much, in terms of getting discovered by people that aren't necessarily your audience, but that's also really cool because you can create content. The comment section actually is a really good place to get content. So if you go to creators that talk about stuff that you talk about and you look at the comment section to see what people are asking them, like, look at those questions and then title your and create your content based on those questions. So if someone's like, "What podcast mic should I use?" Literally make your YouTube, uh,
Mm,
"What podcast
that
mic should you use?"
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And then you'll capture those people that are, like, literally asking those questions in the comments. They want to see content about this stuff. You'll know what kind of your it's like a dummy audience because it's
yeah,
somebody that's doing what you wanna do. These are the people that you wanna attract. So, what are they asking, right?
yeah. See, I just need to hit the lottery because I need like a content manager. I need like a director of photography. I need like a producer. I can create the content. I have great ideas. Like, you have educated me so much on ways to create and optimize content. I in YouTube University every day, but can one person really do it all, in a way that is optimized and that's going to generate revenue? I just need a team.
Yeah. I wanna bring on a guest, shortly to talk about different tools for that because yeah, having a team is the greatest thing. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for you. Like, this would not be happening if it wasn't for you for sure. Because I was all gung ho. I'm like, yeah, let's do another show. And then it's
Yeah,
like week after week. I can't even believe how little time there actually is in a day to like my kids get sick, things happen. So having someone else on the team that I've really been able to rely on has been insanely valuable and just so appreciated. And I feel terrible
for
myself because I
sure.
just feel like I'm not
Oh, no. We've,
okay.
you know, we've we've talked about it. I offered
Yeah.
to kind of head things up, and
Well, I appreciate that. It's just my own guilt. Like I want to show up more for this. This is such a
yeah,
cool project. We're getting such great feedback from
we
people.
are. We are still
And
getting feedback. We're growing still. I
yeah,
think they have this new feature on Anchor, or Spotify for podcasters, that tells you how many impressions that you've made on
yeah.
Spotify, whether it's through search or similar shows. And I think last week was maybe like 2,100 or something, like
Oh,
over a
cool.
couple thousand Spotify impressions. So we're having continued growth, even with each of us still doing our own things. And,
Mhm.
um, you know, eh, I think it's not either of our primary focus, which is okay. I think, again, it's part of
Yeah.
that digital business card. It's a way that I can um, direct maybe potential clients to a question that they may have, or um, equipment starter packs, or podcast
Yeah.
SEO, or things that we've covered on the show. I think it's cool to have that library of content that is so close, to each of our kind of business focuses.
Oh, 100%. I've just booked a gig um with a treatment center to consult on the equipment that they've decided to purchase and like, you know,
Amazing. Yeah,
and, that's, like, largely I feel very confident taking that on because we're doing this project. I'm learning so much just, through our conversations and our conversations with guests. I feel like I really have value to offer now because of it, so
right.
it's really, really cool. So I just
Yeah.
wanna backtrack because the guests I wanna bring on, I
Oh,
really,
yeah.
think it'd be cool to talk about those tools that we can use, like AI tools and things that make it possible for a one-man show because that's where we all start. Like, no one's sitting here with, like, 10 grand to spend on, assistants and
Right.
tech and a producer and all that kind of stuff. And if you are, we will talk about that too.
I'm
But
jealous.
for the average person who's also running their own business, like, how can you really make this work for you and set yourself up for success and maybe some tools that you can invest in terms of AI that can make that easier. And I do know a woman who has turned me on to a new program. I did their 7-day trial. It's really cool. And it'll help you like write your YouTube descriptions and your guest bios and all that kind of stuff based on the content that you've created. So you basically just make your content and it writes it all out for you. And I'd love to have her come on and just
That's
kind of dive into
amazing.
that software. Yeah.
Yes, we need to get her.
Yeah, so I'd love to do a deep dive into it, um, with a guest and just talk about how to utilize this tool because it's just such a time saver to have those things done for you. And I mean, my strategy for that with my Sober Biz Collective podcast was literally just create a standard description that I kind of used for everything
That's what
and
I'm
then add a
doing
little
now,
bit
yeah.
about the guest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly.
So that's a time saving hack. But if you can get AI to help you with all that kind of stuff and really be optimized for search and everything, especially on YouTube, um, that's huge. That's game changing. Like that stuff takes hours.
Hours.
And
Yeah,
entrepreneurs, we just don't have the time.
right.
And if you're just starting out, you probably don't have the resources yet either to outsource that.
And just to really know what search engines value in terms of keywords, how they, scan or sort of compute the show notes or description box and how they utilize
Mm.
that information. I think understanding that is one thing. Like, do I really want to take up brain space to understand that or utilize this AI, that they've kind of figured everything out and that will do it for me? Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding.
Yeah. Those are the things that I think AI are amazing for because, like, I want to, obviously, you want to create authentic content, and I don't want to utilize AI to pretend like I know what I'm doing when I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
But once I've already created the content, to have AI just take that content and get quotes out of it and create the description for the podcast episode, like that kind of stuff. That's based on my words, my thoughts, my guests, all that kind of thing. Like I think that's a perfect use of AI.
Agreed. Are you into any new shows or any trending podcast info or shows out there that you're into?
Okay, so I went down the Risa Tisa
I was just gonna ask
rabbit
you
hole.
about her. I was gonna say, has Risa Tisa come to Canada?
She came to Canada. I mean, it was a full day and a
She
half
came,
binge,
she
50,
conquered. Yes.
yeah, 50 episodes in. So not a podcast yet. I'm sure it will be,
I'm
but
sure it will be.
really cool way to share stories in podcasts through TikTok playlists. I thought that was very, very cool because I could throw it in my earbuds and walk around and listen to it and clean, and it would just go to next video, go to next
Automatic,
video, go to
right.
next
A
video.
playlist,
And I
so
need that.
key. Yes.
So good. So definitely for anyone that's creating content, storytelling content is like popping off like crazy right now. And utilizing the playlist is probably the only way to successfully accomplish that.
So smart. Had she not
Listenership.
had she not created that playlist from the beginning, we wouldn't be talking about her. So
No,
so smart.
Yeah, like, who wants to go to part 2? Like, click on the name, like, just too many. The more your
Nobody.
clients or listeners or audience have to click, the less likely they are to buy or, like, consume. So, make it as easy as possible. Utilize those playlists if you have, like, a business story or something you wanna tell, like, such a great tool. I was obsessed. The first few episodes, several episodes, I'm like, "Okay, this is taking forever, but I wanna know." You
I
know
know,
what I
I
mean?
know. I
Like,
was like
why are there
you,
so
I
many
did it
details?
in like a day, and she's just such a good storyteller. Every detail
Yeah,
mattered. That part 46, I mentioned this, and in part 2, go back to part 2
yeah,
if you wanna learn more about San Diego or whatever it was. She just had such a grasp. I mean, well, she lived it for God's sakes, but just
yeah.
a great storyteller. Very
That was so
Satisa.
good. That was, like, the best true crime podcast, like,
I know,
binge
yes.
in a
Right.
while. Um, but for podcast, I am, like, I'm on such a guilty pleasure sort of thing right now. I've been listening to, like, all of these, like, reality recap Vile Files, like,
Yes.
shenanigans from Vanderpump Rules. Like, it's
Wait,
such
how it
trash TV
just
for
trash.
podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But let me say Nick Vile, man, he is a great interviewer, and
he is.
he is so passionate and involved and prepared and also a good storyteller. Who would have thought reality TV to like genuine podcaster, interviewer, man, I give him
Yeah.
like respect for sure.
I do. I really enjoy his interviews. Yeah, and I love watching them, through YouTube and stuff. Like, I feel like consume like, it is trash, gossip,
At its finest.
BS, all that stuff. It's not feeding my soul, but I do learn a lot when I'm watching these podcasts or listening to these podcasts on, like, how to interview, like, cool questions to ask, that kind of stuff. Like, I'm always thinking about that in my back of my head, so really it's research.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give
Yeah,
myself
yeah,
a break.
exactly. It is
I used to
research.
really into consuming, like, personal development content and, like, business content, and I was, like, obsessed with it, and I just wanted to learn 24 hours a day, and it just I realized, like, I was just consuming, and then not putting any of it to action or,
Yeah.
I was just, like, obsessed with learning more and learning more and learning more, but I wasn't doing any of it.
I found that too with like self-help and entrepreneurship and, like business focused podcasts. I end up um a little resentful, at maybe because I'm not at that level of success or I
Yeah,
haven't implemented X, Y, and Z in my business yet, and they have. So I found myself at the end of each episode being a little kind of let down and like the opposite, I think, of the intent of the podcast episode.
yeah.
So it's hard for me to listen to those anymore as well. Yeah. Give me the trash or like the
Yeah,
just
I
mindless
need a little relief.
entertainment. Yeah,
I find, like, what I've been trying to do is just having, like, a day of education in my week where I'm learning something new or even, like, a couple hours a day where I'll learn something new, you know, listen to somebody that's kinda where I wanna be, get that information, whatever. But I've gotta really limit it, and I really need to, like, start embodying the things that I'm learning and that I wanna implement in my life and be more focused on that than, like, actually learning new things. Because I feel like the more I learn, the more I'm just forgetting things I've learned, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
right.
And I also find that teaching things that I learn help me actually learn them, so sometimes I'll watch stuff with,
100%.
like, the intention of, like, "Okay, I'm gonna make a course about this, so I wanna learn a little bit more about it, and then I'm gonna teach about it," and then I really integrate that into, like, what I'm doing in my life after I've, like, taught someone else how to do it. Even as an entrepreneur, I find myself at the end of the year being like, "I could give this money to the government, or I could spend it on another course."
I
You
know you
know?
well enough. You're gonna be in the front row of that classroom with your hand raised, your new trapper keeper.
This is the only thing I like about school is, like, being able to, like, set up my little
First day of school vibes. I love that. Thanks so much for hanging out today. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube for all of our video content at Unplugged Tech Pod.
And join us in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/unplugged podcast. Also, make sure to throw us a 5-star review if you are finding this content valuable for you and your digital business. We accept all forms of reviews: Apple Podcast, Spotify follows, YouTube, telling your grandmother about us.
And make sure to share the episode with one person in your life who may find it valuable. And we'll see you next time on Unplugged.
I think it's good enough, and we're just going to keep getting better.